Stan Brakhage is a household name in avant-garde cinema. Perhaps the most influential of the American experimental directors, his work explores the unrestrained acts of seeing. Though most are familiar with his work, few are as familiar with the eccentric lifestyle he led, with seminal pieces like Dogstar Man and the Persia series being the results of his mysterious life. Born in 1948 in a small town in Georgia, Stan Brakhage was the son of a blacksmith and the daughter of a painter. He had few friends growing up, choosing instead to spend his time intermittently gazing at the sun and closing his eyes to explore the colours which became imprinted on his retina. The few friends he did have throughout childhood found him a Forgian and Villefurian, espousing of his love of nature over people. Despite this, Brakhage retained good grades at school and was able to secure a place at the Milwaukee School of Arts in 1976, where he would study painting. There he would meet his teenage sweetheart Eleanor Gray, an artist of similar nature to him. Brakhage worked as a painter while making money as a milkman on the side throughout his teenage years. His paintings were well received by family and friends alike, and the talent of his art was becoming visible to those around him. However, following a tragic experience in 1978, Brakhage's work as an artist was going to change forever. On December 14, 1978, in the back of a motel in downtown Chicago, Brakhage was discovered by the owner lying naked on a bed with a nearly dead chicken splayed across the floor next to him. Upon interview, Brakhage said he had found the chicken in the kitchen of the motel and had attempted to save it from its demise. However, this alibi was not well received by the police, as the kitchen was only serving vegetarian food that day. Brakhage was to be brought in for questioning the next day, but instead of facing a life in prison, he chose to go on the run. With Eleanor Gray, he fled to New York, where he would live the rest of his life as a film director. Entering New York in the midst of the no-wave movement, Brakhage quickly became friends with other artists working at the time, such as a young Jim Jarmusch and an old Andy Warhol, the former of which lent him some film to help him shoot a short piece to be titled Wrath of Jah. Upon receiving the donation of film, Brakhage began working on his own films instead, distancing himself from the ethos of the no-wave movement and instead opting to paint on the celluloid in a grueling process which he called salmon ammunition. Spending up to 15 hours a day doing this, Brakhage would work following the path of his subconscious, only declaring a piece finished when he felt no more could be added. Such a philosophy is what gives his work its meditative, Eleuther's edge. When Jarmusch found out of Brakhage's film theft habits and discovered that he painted onto film rather than using it in the way it was supposed to be used, he severed his friendship with him and performed an ancient ritual curse banishing him from the circle of no-wave artists. Such a curse had not been used since Brian Jones was banished from the Rolling Stones, and its power was only gifted to the most maverick artists. Brakhage was unfazed by this and chose to further focus on the exploration of celluloid metaphysics, exploring techniques like the infamous compression of dead insects onto film in what would be his most successful work, Mothlight. However, fellow film directors were not impressed with his continued successes and wished to enact revenge upon the burgeoning filmmaker. A $15,000 bounty was placed atop his head in 1986, following the release of his 15th short film, A Cat in Two Bodies. The film was his most ambitious project yet, involving a combination of tiny cats compressed onto film stock and shots of birth defects in felines. The film was to be premiered at the Alaskan Institute of Ice Fishing in January of that year. Brakhage was on a series of wins in the art world, but he had no idea what was coming next. The screening was a monumental success, with some of the audience in tears and others farting voraciously throughout the film. They chanted "speech, speech, speech," begging the elusive Brakhage to speak of his process in making the masterpiece at the end of the film. And he did. Brakhage got up onto the dark wooden planks of the stage in front of an audience of 15,000 people and spoke of the 4 months without sleep he had endured to make the film. The crying and farting in the audience continued throughout, but the room quickly erupted into panic when a gunshot was fired at the stage. Brakhage was horrifically shot dead at the night of the premiere, with the black Pontiac fleeing from the scene before any aggressors could be spotted. To this day, no one has since viewed the magnum opus work which was shown, A Cat in Two Bodies, and no one knows who placed the bounty. Despite his early end, the work of Brakhage remains unparalleled among filmmakers, and no work has come close to documenting the metaphysical beauty of untainted sight as well as his. He was knighted posthumously in 1989 and has since been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Such is the life and death of the most independent of all filmmakers.